It may be June, but election season is here. You've probably seen the ads on TV, maybe your ballot in the mail. Mine showed up this week. They started going out on Monday. And just because it's not a presidential year, there are still many big decisions to make. You've got to make your voice heard. Joining our conversation this morning is our 9 News legal analyst, Whitney Traylor. Good morning. Thanks for coming in.
Good morning. Good to be here. And I actually brought my ballot as a prop,
and you forgot it?
It's in my bag.
It's okay. We
but
can
I do have it. Everybody
no
showed
big
up.
Deal.
Yes.
This is a really big deal. You know, I know a lot of people are like, it's not the presidential, but there are a lot of big things that are on these ballots. So talk about the highlights of this year's primary election.
Yeah, it's a great point. This isn't a presidential year, and it's not even the general election. It's the primary, but there are some important races, from the governor to the attorney general to one statewide board of education. So there's a number of elected positions. In some of these primaries, also the U.S. Senate, Senator Bennett's seats is up. So there's some important seats in this year. We're in the primary. The ballots just went out, and so the election is going to be June 28th. And so we have a complete mail-in system. And so now that everybody's gotten their primary ballots, they can start turning them in immediately.
So this is the third election cycle in which unaffiliated voters can vote in either party's primary. There's been some litigation around this. Has that been resolved? Right.
That's a good point. And it has been resolved. There were some Republicans, about 5 Republicans, who sued, saying that this was unconstitutional, meaning that unaffiliated voters, which the majority of the state is, 45% is unaffiliated, they can vote in either party's primary, right? And so what the Republicans were saying is that that's a disadvantage to them because most unaffiliated vote Democratic. So they challenged it, but the court dismissed that case. Where you're going to see that come up is in the 3rd district with Lauren Boebert. So she has a primary challenger, and in that district, 3,700 Democrats registered as unaffiliated. So they changed their vote, and the people are saying that they're going to vote in the primary to try and help vote Lauren Boebert out. So it's going to be interesting.
It is going to be very interesting. How can folks get more involved in the election process?
There's a lot of ways to get involved. I mean, the number one thing is to get informed. There is so much election disinformation and misinformation going around. So the number one thing is to really just get involved or get the research done and look at some of the issues that you may be concerned about. But people can certainly be election judges. That's become a very popular thing and very contentious in a lot of ways. But they can definitely do that. And then, of course, they can volunteer for their candidates or for their party to go actually watch, not as an election judge, but as actually to oversee it to ensure that they're proper. But you have to get some training to do that.
Right. You know, you talked about a lot of people have concerns. Talk a little bit about election security, because that's been a big thing too.
Right. Well, I would say, generally speaking, as far as the whole nationwide system, we do have a trusted system. And I would, when people are saying the election was stolen or whatever, first I would say look to what the courts did, right? And throughout, there were 85 to 100 lawsuits about the election. And all of these cases, Democrat, Republican judges, they all ruled the same way. So our elections are safe. Here in Colorado, they're very safe. We've had a mail-in system since 2013. And so now you can get if you don't want to vote by mail or you didn't get it, you can still show up in person between June 20th and June 28th when the general election is. So I think the cases are safe. And it's really important to understand that when you look at a democracy, there's kind of 2 things that need to be protected, and that is our voting system and our election process and trust in the process, and then our judiciary, right? Because politicians, Congress, and the president, they're going to be partisan and political. But we have to really trust our judges. And right now, a majority of the country, there was a poll recently, still has confidence in the judicial branch.
Right.
And so really that's why it's important, because a lot of these cases were resolved in the courts. So we got to protect our elections and maintain an objective judiciary.
Absolutely. So before you go, let people know how and where they can go to register, tips, other information that people should know.
Yeah, so we have same-day registration in Colorado, so you can register all the way up till June 28th, which is the date of the primary. But all of this information is at govotecolorado.com. You can even track your ballot. you could check your registration, change any information that's incorrect. So if you have your ballot, you can always drop those off at the ballot boxes up to June 28th by 7 p.m. But if you're mailing it, you got to mail it by June 20th.
It was so cool because I got an email that my ballot had been, sent out. I got my ballot. I could track it the whole way, which is really neat. And like you said, there's a lot of things. You can mail it in, you can drop it off, register the day of. I mean, there are a lot of options to make sure that your voice is heard.
Colorado has made it really easy, and it does give you a feeling of you can check something off your to-do list.
Right.
And it is a civic duty, and it is a right. And I know people, it sounds cliche or whatever, but no, this is a valuable. We're one of the few countries in the world that has a system like this. So
take the opportunity.
We got to do it. Yes.
Whitney, as always, thank you so much. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Thanks for coming in.